In the early hours of the 8th of August 1963, here at Bridego Railway Bridge in Buckinghamshire, £2.6 million was stolen from a Royal Mail train heading from Glasgow to London on the West Coast Main Line, with the perpetrators fleeing into the night. This was perhaps the most infamous incident connected to the otherwise quiet, forgotten life of the world's first branch line. Located just north of the village which gives it its name, Cheddington Railway Station lies 36 miles and 8 chains north of London Euston. Situated on the West Coast Main Line, the station was, from 1839, a junction for services to the Buckinghamshire town of Aylesbury, some 6 miles to the west. According to the author Bill Simpson, the line can probably lay claim to being the first branch line of its kind. It would be over 20 years before the first competing railway made it to Aylesbury from Princes Risborough, with the Metropolitan line reaching the town in 1868. Ultimately closed in 1963, this film explores what remains and what there is to discover of this lost line, beginning in Cheddington. Here, atop the footbridge facing north, the fast lines of the West Coast Main Line stretch out before us. Indeed, few of those standing here on Platform 2 would recognise that there was ever a branch line here, but its course is visible as the service track between the end of Platform 1 and the grey buildings on the right. Much clearer in this south-facing view from the early 20th century, we see the beginning of the Aylesbury branch and its platform to the right of the picture. Alongside the characterful buildings which populated Cheddington's platforms, it is now long gone. Standing on the Aylesbury branch's trackbed facing north, with the station on our right, the railway diverged from the main line in a southwesterly direction. Seen from above, it would be remiss of any documentary about this branch to omit mention of the Great Train Robbery. For it was here that locomotive D326 and 2 of its carriages were stabled pending investigation the day after this infamous crime occurred. It was quickly determined that the robbers had offloaded their loot from the train 1.5 miles north of Cheddington at Bridego Bridge, where, in the hours and days afterwards, investigators scoured the scene for clues and evidence. The crime was a press sensation, and in the years following, the chief perpetrators were rarely out of the public eye, arrested and imprisoned, later escapees and fugitives. But such sensation conceals the grim violence which saw driver Jack Mills struck with a rubber cosh, causing brain damage and, though his death in 1970 was recorded as being unconnected to the incident on the train, they were injuries from which he never recovered. Standing on the Aylesbury branch platform, we prepare to depart. When it first opened, there were 3 trains on each weekday and 2 on Sundays connecting with London trains at Cheddington. Today, the railway's course is marked by tree and hedge growth. And on the trackbed itself, its path is only discernible to those who knew where the railway once lay. Yet, surviving on its margins, we find the skeletal remains of the lineside fence which protected the railway's property. Now a plantation, we face east along the trackbed. And here we face west towards Aylesbury. Here was once the railway's first level crossing, Mentmore Crossing, where there was a keeper's hut with a 2-lever frame located on the road's west side. Today, all signs of the railway are gone. Continuing west, straight as an arrow, we see the railway's course as marked by the hedgerow in the middle distance. After 2.5 miles, trains would call at the branch's first and only intermediary station. Initially opened for goods alone in 1857 was Marston Gate. The station began to see passenger traffic in the early 1860s. However, it was goods that would remain its chief custom throughout its life, continuing until 1963, some 10 years since passenger services ceased. Today, the station building remains in place, but is no longer the somewhat ramshackle structure as seen in the photograph. And although named Beeching House, here was one line whose fate was not, in fact, determined by the good doctor. With Marston Gate behind us, the journey continues as we reach the outskirts of Aylesbury. With so much of the railway long gone, it is a surprise to find this track chair still firmly attached to its track timber nearly 60 years since the line closed. The railway continued through what is now the car park of a public house, where the left gate post now stands where there was once a crossing keeper's hut, which oversaw Broughton Crossing, with the keeper's house once located beyond the fence. Once again, it is up to the tree line to denote the railway's course into Aylesbury. And among the tangle of branches, a telegraph pole remains upright, one of many which once flanked the railway. The Stocklake Road now occupies the railway's alignment and, still to be found, are signals from the railway commemorating the line's presence. Thus, after 6 miles, we reach the line's terminus, Aylesbury High Street. Here is a picture of the station's frontage in the final years of its life. And here, at the western end of Vale Park, the station's site today. The railway's closure came about as the result of a protracted decline. Once alternative, more direct routes to London had been forged by the likes of the Metropolitan Railway, the inconvenience of changing at Chennington for services to London saw to it that passenger numbers steadily diminished. But at least for some years, this railway showed that branch lines had their place in bringing vital economic and social prosperity to large parts of the country. How so many towns and communities would benefit from such services today. Gone, but not forgotten, our exploration of the world's first branch line reaches its journey's end. I hope you enjoyed this film. Please subscribe, click the notification bell, share and watch Rediscovering Lost Railways.